What is up, dudes? Welcome back to Archetype review. Ah, this time the Arcana Force Archetype. Why do I do this to myself? I picked this. There was no suggestion. Joining community Discord to make suggestions. I was like, I'm gonna review something small today. I don't feel like doing the big prep work, because I had plans during the afternoon, so yeah, I was like, small. Arcana Force is pretty small. I can have a good laugh at it, because it is one of the worst archetypes in the game. Boy. I think you have a few that are worse, like Guardians, but Arcana Force is definitely up there in decks you don't want to play. Even their recent support seems like it's just awful. It just straight up doesn't work. Well, it works. It can help, but it's a single card for the ones who want to know, and it's the searcher for the archetype now. it's just awful. It's trash. Okay, we're almost at the starting time. Like the actual starting time of my review. I always wait 2 minutes just to let people join in, and that went by very fast. Maybe because I was laughing. Anyway, well, nobody joined in, sadly enough. Anyway, I'm just gonna start for the YouTube folks, I guess. So we're gonna start on Arcana Force, an archetype all about coin tosses. Yes, coin tosses, because everybody knows that luck is what wins you to do. No skill or strategy. No, coin tosses are gonna win. Anyway, we have Arcana Force 0, the Fool. A light attribute fairy level 1 effect monster with no attack or defense, and this card cannot be destroyed by battle. This card cannot be changed to the defense position except with a card effect, and when this card is summoned, toss a coin and gain the appropriate effect. Heads negate your card effects that target this card and destroy them. Tails negate your opponent's card effects that target this card and destroy them. Now, okay, just to clarify, why can't they change the defense mode? Because the anime. Why would it need an effect that prevents you from targeting it? The anime. This was used in the anime one time, and was immediately given, and I believe it had an extra effect where you could select where your opponent could select the outcome of coin tosses. So yeah, that would have made it slightly useful. And currently you have something you're gonna put in defense mode and ignore for the rest of the time. Tribute fodder if you ever need it. If it ever lives that long. Fucking hell, this thing it's trash. Its only saving grace is, well, it has two. It can be immune to targeting and can't be destroyed by battle. To get the immune to targeting, you have to play in an attack mode, where it will be stuck due to its other effect. This is trash. It doesn't support the rest of the archetype. It isn't a very powerful presence on its own, and just not being able to be destroyed by battle, you can do better than the Fool. Next up, it's Arcana Force 1, the Magician. Oh, for the ones who don't know, these cards are all based off tarot cards. So if you heard these names before, then that's why. It's a light fairy level 4 effect monster with 1100 attack and defense. When this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads, when a spell card is activated, this card's attack becomes double its original attack until the end phase of that turn. Tails, when a spell card is activated, your opponent gains 500 life points. Now, its Tails effect isn't actually too terrible. It is one of the less terrible ones among the Arcana Force cards. Not even kidding. But its Heads effect, which is what you're supposed to be playing it for, makes it a 2200 beat stick until the end of the turn. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't just run a 2k beat stick and give it a fucking shitty equip spell. You know, if I wanted that. It's trying to be a beat stick and it's being awful at it. Or, like, why not Heads just double its attack? This would have been so much better. It wouldn't have made it nearly as inconsistent or just shit as it is now. Or, you know, increase the attack by 1100 every time your opponent activates a spell card or just a spell card is activated. But just doubling it once really doesn't make it worth it. Like, its downside is actually proportionate to what it does, I guess. Somewhat, which is surprising for the Arcana Force cards, because usually it feels like you're being punished heavily for existing, for failing a coin toss. Anyway, speaking of that, let's see. We have the next card, Arcana Force 3. The Empress. This is one of the better cards in the archetype, my gosh. It's a light attribute fairy, level 4 monster. With 1300 attack and defense, and when it's summoned, guess what? You toss a coin. Each time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, you can special summon one Arcana Force monster from your hand. Tails, each time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, send the card from your hand to the graveyard. Now, this card, its Tails effect, is actually acceptably bad. It isn't too terrible. Yeah, you just get sent cards from your hand to the graveyard for no reason, but at least they're in the graveyard, they're not banished face down or anything. You can play around this by just playing all the cards in your hand. Of course, you'd prefer the Heads effect, because it can get your higher levels out, however, it is as slow as fuck. Which is, gonna hold it back a lot. Anyway, yeah, there's not much else to say about this. This is the engine of the deck. It is not capable of carrying the deck in that way, but it is going to. Arcana Force 4, the Emperor. A light attribute, level 4, fairy effect monster with 1400 attack and defense. With the following effect: when this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads, all Arcana Force monsters you control gain 500 attack. Tails, they all lose 500 attack. I like how the Tails effect only affects Arcana Force monsters. This kind of effect, it is so weak. If you have 3 of these out, you have 3 2900 beat sticks. This is so focused on beat sticking, it's kind of ridiculous. It'd be fine. It's fine. It's surprisingly enough. Again, this is relatively speaking. Relatively speaking, fine. Its attack. The attack loss is going to hurt you a lot, though. Which is, you know, a lot of the cards focusing on being strong. Well, with Magician, and I believe some of the higher levels are do focus on being strong. And then you have this, like, yeah, it's weakened now. I failed the coin toss. But you can recover, and it's not too terrible. Its attack again, however, is not too great. So, you know, you're losing. Now we're getting into the real pieces of shit. Arcana Force Ex, the Lovers, a light attribute, level 4 fairy effect monster, 1600 attack and defense, with the following effect: when this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads, this card is treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of an Arcana Force monster. Tails, you cannot tribute summon Arcana Force monsters. Somebody wrote this. Somebody was like, yeah, this is acceptable at any time. It has only seen 1 print. No one wanted to see it afterwards. I believe a lot of these have like one or two prints only, because these aren't popular for obvious reasons. Well, the Lover's Effect. Let's dissect this. Heads Effect. Treated as 2 tributes. So you either special summon this and then immediately tribute it, or you summon it and watch it die before you can tribute it. What? Why would you? This card is power crept by the Empress, but just being the Empress is being a special summon. It doesn't have the stats to even survive battle. It doesn't have protection to survive card effects, and it's not a worthwhile effect. Special summoning is better because it's faster, even if it's by literally doing your opponent's turn instead of doing your next turn. You know, it's still better to play the Empress. This thing just has no reason to exist. Yeah, I said it. No reason to exist. You're never playing this, and if you do, you're not gonna pull it off. Weak, garbage card. Next up is Arcana Force 7, the Chariot. A light attribute level 4 fairy with 1700 attack and defense. Yeah, seeing a pattern here, same attack and defense, because fate is because luck needs the luck in the bad luck need to be evenly strong. They're not. When this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon that monster to your side of the field. Pretty good effect if it had a decent amount of attack points instead of just 1700. This needed to be on a stronger card. It is not though, so Tails, your opponent gains control of this card. Yeah, you know, resources, you know who needs them, right? This is the kind of card you need to play with the Emperor, just to get some field presence going. Yeah. What is there to say about this? You'll lose this card half the time unless you use a card we're gonna talk about a little later. And even if you do get its heads effect, you're very unlikely to roll over anything with 1700. No, like okay. So if I were to rewriting these cards, I would have made like the whole coin toss the additional effect, because they need a normal effect, something they can more actively rely on. But these cards don't have that. They are these just bland cards that immediately toss a coin and either play a half-baked effect or kill you. Anyway, next up is a little special one. This one was never officially printed, but I felt like it was worth mentioning because it does appear in Duel Links for the ones who are interested in them there. Arcana Force 12, the Hanged Man, or as it's called, the Romaji version of Japanese, which means I believe that's just putting it to the letters. Arcana Force 12, the Hanged Man. Sorry, this is Zahanguto. Anyway, when this card is summoned, toss a coin. Hits. During your end phase, destroy one face of monster you control and take damage equal to its attack. Tails. During your end phase, destroy one face of monster your opponent controls and your opponent take damage equal to its attack. This is one of the better cards, and they didn't bother printing it. They were like, boom, print that shit. No, they were like, you know what? We're gonna not print this one. This one is too strong. 2222, jeez. Also, it's Light Fairy level 6. This is one of the high level ones, and it's yeah. But anyway, not linger on it too long. The fact that it can actually destroy monsters means it's one of the more capable cards in the archetype. And with its negative effect not being an immediate fuck over, it's better. Next we go up to another level 6. It's Arcana Force 14, Temperance. A light attribute level 6 fairy effect monster, 2400 attack and defense. And the following effect. This one is one of the few that has a standardized effect. Why didn't all of them get this? I don't know. Well, technically the Fool also had a standardized effect. So that's 2 cards with an effect before the coin toss. Coin toss. Coin toss. What? Did I seriously say coin toss? What? Well, during damage, in either player's turn, you can discard to take no battle damage from that battle. Karibo on a level 6. When this card is summoned, toss a coin and apply the effect. The effect lasts while this card is face up on the field. Heads have all battle damage you take. Tails have all battle damage your opponent takes. They reprinted this card in 2012 for Battle Pack Epic Dawn. It's not very epic though. So it's the fact, I already mentioned it. It's a level 6 Karibo. Now its on-field effects do not make up for that. Halving your battle damage sounds really neat, but it's just not worth investing resources in. You're better off just playing cards that make your opponent's life drain faster rather than make yours drain slower. And on top of that, it can have your opponent's battle damage, which, good for you if you can actually manage to land an attack in this archetype. Next up, it's Arcana Force 18, the Moon. Yes, and if you notice that we're skipping a few numbers, that's because Konami's lazy and can't make 22 cards for this archetype. I don't know why they didn't just, okay, just go sit down, go write a few cards, fill up this archetype. And again, this is one of the stronger ones, this is can actually Pete stick. Anyway, the Moon is a light attribute, level 7 fairy effect monster with 2800 attack and defense. With the following effect, I am breezing through this by the way. When this card is summoned, toss a coin. Again, no standard effect, even though you're investing 2 monsters into this or using the Empress like a smart person. Hits, during your standby phase, you can special summon 1 Moon token. Fairy type, light level 1. Attack 0, defense 0. That's a tribute token. That'd be fine, but during each of your end phases, which is the Tails effect, during each of your end phases, like one monster you control, give control to your opponent. And you just gotta be like, okay, you take this. That is awful, but it is not as awful as its head's effect. The Tails effect is of course negative, but you can easily play around it. Well, its head's effect, you're not gonna get anything out of this. Like, it's going to die 9 out of 10 times before your standby phase comes along. And even if it does, congrats, you just got a weak ass monster. It's a good tribute fodder, or link fodder. If you're playing this in a link deck, I really gotta wonder what the fuck you're doing. You invested 2 monsters into this thing and waited a turn just to get a weak ass token. Yeah. Probably, okay, we're now up to the best card in the archetype, and probably one of the only cards that you could legit say is a good card. Arcana Force 21. Zawardo. It's a light, level 8, fairy effect monster with 3100 attack and defense, making it a pretty good beat stick. When it's summoned, you toss a coin, and if it's heads, during your end phase, you can send 2 monsters you control to the graveyard and skip your opponent's turn. This has no further restrictions. It just costs you 2 monsters. But if you have the Tails effect during your opponent's draw phase, add the top card of their graveyard to their hand. This is the one true boss monster of the archetype. You have 2 others, which we'll get to in a bit. But the skipping turn effect is the best thing Arcana Force can do. And probably one of the reasons it receives so little support is because Konami might fear the world OTK. Or is that, or to be, no, it wouldn't be considered an FTK because you would take another turn, but you just summon it. That there comes some combo with Arcana Force that lets you summon this turn 1 and then keep using its effect to skip your opponent's turns. Because your turn starts from the start, so you can just draw a card and make your entire move again. Too bad Arcana Force has nothing that supports this. None of the monsters can. The only ones that can summon other things are. There are two cards that summon other things. It's the Moon and the Empress, one of which summons tokens which can't be sent to the graveyard, and one of which relies on your opponent normal summoning or setting, which is not happening when you're skipping turns. But all by all, this is probably a better card. In the full picture, Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Arcana Force picture, it's actually fucking weak. How are they even gonna summon it? The Empress, the Lovers. Oh. Anyway, I'm moving on. Arcana Force Ex or Extra, the Light Ruler, a light level 10 fairy effect monster with 4,000 attack and defense. Cannot be normal, so it must be sent from your hand by sending 3 monsters you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. When discarded a special summon, toss a coin and it gains the appropriate effect. Heads. When this card destroys an opponent monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can target 1 card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Minor recursion on your boss monster. Tails. During either player's turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect that targets this card is activated, this card loses exactly 1,000 attack. Negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Now these are fine effects, except for one little detail. This is the boss of the deck. This is supposed to be the magnum opus. This is what your strategy works towards, and you get a beat stick. A beat stick that can either recover a card once per turn, technically more times so you can get it to destroy more monsters, or can just protect itself. This thing should have just had its tails effect should have just been a negate. That should have just been a negate, and with its head's effect being allowing you to summon monsters from your graveyard, that would have made this feel like a boss rather than just another beat stick. This feels like something I'd pay 1,000 life points to summon, not 3 monsters. This has the same conditions as an Egyptian god, well, more a Sacred Beast because it is special summon, but it holds up even less. Heck, with modern support, you can play both Egyptian gods and Sacred Beasts better than this entire deck. Anyway, Arcana Force Extra, the Dark Ruler, a light. It's the Dark Ruler. It's a light attribute because they have to keep on the theme. We're not breaking the theme here to make it more fitting. Dark Ruler being dark attribute. Even in the anime's lore, he just came from the guy who was Arcana Force working with literal darkness, and. Anyway, it's a light attribute level 10 fairy effect monster with 400,000 attack and defense again. And again, it cannot be normal summoned or set and must be summoned from your hand by sending 3 monsters you control to the graveyard. It cannot be summoned by other ways. And when this card is special summoned, does coin and gain the appropriate effect. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase, but if it does so using this effect, change it to defense position at the end of the battle phase. Its battle position cannot be changed until the end of your next turn. Tails, if this card is destroyed, destroy all cards on the field. Why couldn't its head's effect just be a double attack? A double attack changing the defense mode wouldn't be terrible with 4,000 defense. Honestly, that would be good, because you just reduce the chance of taking battle damage. But the fact that you can't change it back until the next turn, until the end of your next turn, so you're stuck with this thing in defense mode for an entire turn. And someone thought, yeah, that's a boss monster for you. It is not. Even if it doesn't have a lot of conditions, 3 monsters is a lot of resources to invest in this. Its tails effect is surprisingly enough passable, but you have to remember that there are cards that do that better, like Black Rose, which just does that on summon, meaning you don't have to summon it, get a good coin toss, and wait for it to be destroyed. Or destroy it yourself, which costs even more resources. Let's assume that you have a card that just destroys your own monsters. It says destroy one monster you control. You'd invested 4 cards to nuke the field. Black Rose takes 2. Black Rose came a little later in this thing. But that's half the resources, more accessible. And more consistent. Yeah. Konami doesn't really get luck at all. If that's the kind of message you should take from this card. Its positive effects are usually outlandishly weak. Well, I would say mediocre. They're mediocre at best. They're not. Oh, some of them are. That's the thing. Some of them actually are outlandishly weak, like the Magician or the Fool. Oh, the Fool's positive effect is targeting protection. It's not outlandishly, it's just mediocre, actually. Yeah, it ranges from mediocre to outlandishly weak. There's nothing. The only thing that stands out is the world. That is not how you build an archetype. When an archetype is like, okay, you have one good card. Its Tails effect is honestly just appropriately bad for the positive it does. It gives your opponent more resources if you have bad luck, but if you have good luck, you literally conceal your opponent's plays completely by skipping their turn. Feels like appropriate weakness, appropriate risk-reward ratio, while others seem to have a very big, like they're equivalent. The risk is equivalent to the rewards, which isn't how anyone would take risk reward. If somebody would play risk reward, they want, even if they have a high risk, they want the reward to be higher. Konami just didn't get this at this when making these cards. I don't know why nobody explained that to them. These cards are constant gambles with bad outcomes. Anyway, that's where this card comes into play. Light Barrier. During your standby phase, toss a coin. If the result is tails, the following effect is negated until your next standby phase. When you summon an Arcana Force monster, choose which effect to apply without tossing a coin. If an Arcana Force monster destroys an opponent monster in battle, gain life point equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. Now, this is a card Arcana Force is revolving around. Like imagine that Arcana Force is a house. Now this house is built upon one pillar and it's Light Barrier. If somebody as much as breathes at it, it's destroyed. If it creaks on its own, the house collapses as well. That's how Light Barrier works. Because on the turn you activate it, you have its effects, but after the turn after, you're at a 50% chance of being at the mercy of your own cards. This is never a good sentence to say about your deck. Yeah, I'm at a 50% chance now to be at the mercy of my own cards. Oh boy. But in the grand scheme of things, it's awful. But in Arcana Force, it says there. Oh boy, it's the newest support for Arcana Force. It's Arcana Reading. Toss a coin. Apply this effect. If Light Barrier is in your field zone, you can choose which effect instead. Heads, add one card from your deck to hand that has a coin tossing effect. Except Arcana Reading. Tails, your opponent adds one card from their deck to their hand. Wow, that's... Applause, Konami. You have a heads effect that search the card with restriction for yourself, and tails that unrestrictedly let your opponent search the card. Okay, let me just... hold on, I believe you can... inspect. I believe there's a way to rewrite it a little. On the web page. No, you know what, I'm gonna... no, fuck that. I don't feel like figuring this out right now. I do that again. But there's a way to do that. Anyway, this should say draw one card. Your opponent draws one card. That would be still terrible, but you're not literally shooting yourself at the start of your turn. You're like, oh crap, I didn't draw Light Barrier. Well, I'll use Arcana Reading to get it. Tails, fuck. Because here's the thing: if your opponent can add any card of their choosing, it would be bad enough if they had a card to do that. But you're going negative in card advantage. You're supposed to be going even with this. You trade one card in for one card in your hand. So if you start with 5 cards, you play this card, you still have 5 cards. Now, if you play... your opponent also has 5 cards. Now if you play this, you get the Tails effect. You're at 4 cards while your opponent's at 6. Which is awful. But on top of that, that 6th card is whatever card they needed most. No matter at what level you are at, like if you're playing casual or professional, that is going to hurt you a lot. A lot. They can, if they have any like one part of a combo piece, they're gonna get the other. If they are a competitive player, they're going to get whatever gets them their turn to be 20 minutes long, and an FTK, an OTK, not an FTK. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst cards in the game, just because it can do that. At a 50% chance. Anyway, you can also ban this card from your graveyard, and immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one Arcana Force monster, and you can only use each effect of Arcana Reading once per turn. So normal summoning an Arcana Force monster that is appropriately not awful. That's inappropriately good for the archetype. But yeah, what else is there to say besides, whoa, that's awful. Somebody designed this. This is designed in 2020. Somebody in 2020 was like, you know what a searcher for an archetype really needs? An awful backfire effect if you can't get lucky. So yeah, the worst searcher in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably. I'd be amazed if you could find a worse one. Next up is the trap cards, which there's only 2 of, so I put them in the same tab for once, because I didn't want to make 2 tabs for 2 spells and 2 traps. Anyway. Select, it's a normal trap card. Select one Arcana Force monster you control. Remove from play one Arcana Force monster from either player's graveyard in case you're playing that mirror match. Oh fuck. Until the end phase, the select monster's effect becomes the remove monster's effect for the same coin toss result. You really want to play the world with Chariot's effect, which makes sense because a card like the Moon. I would say the Moon should have had Chariot's effect with the amount of attack it has could actually pull it off. But okay, it's awful. What you can also do is play Light Barrier and play Call the fucking Haunted. Because you probably already have Light Barrier active. If you then play Call the Haunted, you can bring it back because your opponent's not playing Arcana Force because they don't have this much self-hatred to play this awful mess. Anyway, this card's awful. No matter how you look at it. Like, yeah, you could recycle the effects of a good Arcana of an acceptable Arcana Force monster on a stronger card, but no. Next up is Reversal of Fate, which is surprisingly enough one of the... it's very bad, but it's an actual must for the deck. Select one Arcana Force monster you control. That monster effect is now treated as the opposite coin toss result, so this can reverse what damage you've done by not being lucky. How dare you not be lucky, though? How dare you? No, really, this is quite This is quite the thing. You need a trap card just to not get backfired on as hard. Here we have my tier list. I sorted them on numbers because I like number sorting. Arcana Force Zero the Fool. It's somewhere between D and F, but I'm gonna go D because at least it's a wall. Meaning it's one of the more useful cards in the archetype. Oh. F tier for the Magician. Its effect just forgets to be helpful. Remember, be helpful. Arcana Force 3 Temperance is an A tier. Remember, this is within the archetype. Within the archetype, like, how strong are these cards? And the Empress is actually very strong. Because it at least brings out your monsters, especially your higher ones. Then we have the Emperor. Now, that's clearly a C tier. Its effect helps. Lovers, F tier, you're never going to tribute this thing. The Chariot, D tier, too weak for its effect. For its heads effect, its tails effect is awful. But, you know, at least it has a good heads effect. B tier for the Hanged Man. Its effects are actually quite decent. F tier. I don't need Karibo level. I don't need a level 6 Karibo. The Moon. F tier. Well, I guess within the archetype, I could suggest that they're good beat sticks and put them higher for that. Like both Temperance and the Moon, but no, they're not worth the resources. They're just not. Even within the archetype, you're already scarce on resources, so you don't want to summon these, but at the same time you have to. Which is another matter than them being good, and it's more than them being the only things that are semi-strong. Now, except, of course, for the only S tier. I'm not going to give it to any other card. Well, no, Light Barrier as well. You know what, fuck it, I just did 2 cards at once. Now, Light Barrier's S tier because it's the only thing making your deck not kill itself constantly. And the World is an S tier for being the only good card in the archetype. Well, actually, no, this list is for within the archetype, and within the archetype, it's a B tier. For not having enough ways to summon it. You have 2 cards that, well, 3 cards that can help you summon it. Empress, the Fool, and the Lovers. Problem is that 2 of these are low tier cards already. Especially Lovers being F tier. Like, I suggest to not play this. Oof. The Light Ruler, with its effect of costly targeting protection with a cost. Not costly, but that's F tier. You're not spending free. And the recycle effect is positive. The recycle effect matches more for a level 4 monster though. Like, what the fuck? Somebody went out of their way to write that on a card, and that might have been too much effort for this thing. And the Dark Ruler, well, being considerably better is not out of F tier. Why? Oh, I don't know. The second the to attack effect gets completely nullified by the fact that it goes into defense mode. And you could say, but OTK, but this deck doesn't OTK. And its destroyed effect, its tails effect, which requires it to be destroyed, is just too much effort. Reversal of Fate is surprisingly enough a B tier for within the archetype. Because it, again, helps with your archetype not shooting itself in the foot. A D tier for Arcana Reading. One of the worst search cards in the game, and it still doesn't score F tier in this archetype. It is how desperately it needs a searcher. Too bad it needs a searcher that isn't trash. Arcana Calling, F tier. When are you going to use this? You need to get a good effect monster in the graveyard, and then get a strong monster on the field. And then for 1 turn you can have that effect of the good effect monster on the stronger card. You can have your Light Ruler and your Dark Ruler actually have effects that feel appropriately good. No. They actually have nothing that would be worth the amount of effort that would go into summoning these things. Well, except for the world's heads effect, but the world is already good enough on its own, on the fact that it can be normal and special summoned however you wish. So yeah, this is the list. About a third. Let's see, there's 15 cards in total. It might actually be a third, yeah. 3, 6, 9 plus 6. No, that's 7. 7. So that is 16. 7 of almost half the cards are in F tier. If one more card had been placed in F tier by me, it would have been half the archetype. Is super bad. This is how you can see that this is not working. And some of them just got high tier because they're the only cards that actually decide to do anything, like the Hangman, the World, and the Empress. Well, okay, the World actually does make it on its own merit. But the Reversal of Fate, the Empress, the Emperor, and the Hanged Man make it mostly on the fact that other cards forget to do stuff. And they are actually helpful. And don't come with at a huge ass unrelenting risk. Anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna quickly go pull up a little bit of hold on. When did the Arcana Force? 2008, right? 2008, I think they first appeared. The Empress was one of the first. Yeah, 2008. We're gonna pull up a card from, I think, from an earlier era, which got chance at least right. Fairy Box. This is just to pull into perspective of what a chance card should be. This is from 23. This set the standard for chance cards so much better. When your opponent declares an attack, toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, the attacking monster's attack becomes 0 until the end of the battle phase. During each of your standby phases, pay 500 life points or destroy this card. This is one of the few cards which has coin tosses effects, which has seen some play. Mostly in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh, this was a good way of getting rid of big monsters. But therefore it stands as a testament as one of the best coin toss cards. Yeah, that's actually my opinion here. This card on its own shows more what a coin toss effect should be compared to an archetype that came out 5 years later that revolves around coin tosses, and it's outdone by a single card. Its effect is good. It's dated. It's dated as fuck. But its effect is still, you can still see that the effect is good. It might just be a little too slow and a little too inconsistent. But it's not terrible. Its negative is just a 500 cost, meaning you can't keep it up forever. Your opponent can decide to wait it out, or either until you're out of life points, or until they just draw an MST. Or whatever they have. But your opponent is going to want to get rid of this before attacking. However, with most of the Arcana Force cards, your opponent can just blindly attack, and they're probably doing better because they can consistently summon their strong monsters. Anyway, yeah, this is the final listing for Arcana Force. Jeez, I'm gonna have to make a deck for this. Have pity on me. Hold on, I gotta pull up EDO Probed. I never know where it is because my desktop gets reshuffled from turning off the taskbar. It should pop up soon. There we go. Why am I in the tools menu? I'm going to the decks menu. I'm not gonna. Let's see, did I ever make Archfiend Destiny? No. Destiny of Death, man. I feel like I've made this before, but like before it received its latest support, which was just Arcana reading. People were like so surprised. Like, at the same time, you're surprised and disappointed. Because, you get this old ass archetype that gets no love, and you suddenly see a support card for it, which is great. Then you see Konami absolutely fuck it up. Anyway, I'm surprised. I don't see anything that sounds like it. You can see I made a lot of decks on this. Venom, no. I've never made Arcana Force on this. Someone sent help. I subjected myself to this. These 15 cards. Well, I had 16 because I had the thingamajig with it, the Hanged Man, which again was not officially printed, so it's not in this. But, if it was, it's definitely be in. Now, what did I say about these cards? They're awful. Why are they in? They are the only cards with decent stats. The strongest underneath Temperance is the Chariot at 17. Which, by the way, you're running free of, because it's actually... These are all the ones that you're running free of. You're skipping several. Yeah. Skipping the Lovers mostly, and the Magician, because they're just that awful. You're never going to pull them off. The others are semi-acceptable. And with the low amount of monsters, why aren't there 22 monsters? Because, just all the 22 tarot cards make them into cards. Nah. Konami is like, nah, we're just gonna give him a shitty searcher. Yeah, like, I would love to have seen this archetype actually flourish, actually see something coming out of this. But for some reason, Konami was like, you know what, we don't need good Arcana Force cards. What we need... let's just run two Reversal of Fates, 3 Light Bearers, and 3 Readings, because that's the kind of cards you're talking about. These are necessities that aren't... Oh, speaking of necessities, second coin toss. You would want a couple of draw cards to up the consistency. Pot of Desires and Extravagance. Yes, both of them. I'm gonna have to reduce on Reversal of Faith and Valhalla. Because we're going to need them. The Metaverse and Terraforming. You're not playing this deck without Rely. Without this being your crutch. Because, well, playing Arcana Force is like trying to run a marathon. No. Try to do like the hurdles. The 100-meter hurdles with 2 broken legs. And it's only a crutch. It's not even a wheelchair. You're actually just trying to just lift yourself over everything. Admirable, but not very fast. Or, well, anyway. I'm gonna shut up now, because this analogy is going horribly wrong. Anyway, yeah. It is a crutch. And it barely makes things better. This is pain. That's all it's called. This is pain. This is pain to play. I need to put cards in the extra deck. We're gonna put in a bunch of link monsters with coin toss. Like, you could say, put in some more coin toss effects. Like, well, actually, Cup of Ace. It would make sense if Arcana Force actually, Lightberry actually lets you play all your coin toss effects with chosen effects, that it doesn't. Boral and rifle. I don't care. You're not gonna. Because I'm playing this archetype. This is what I'm playing. Let's remove the OCG card just so I can play against people using TCG limits. Let's do a test hand. I'm boned. I'm still thinking of ways to rework it. The first thing that pops into my head is actually to reduce on cards that help, just to make space for good equipped cards. Power of the Guardians, because it protects and it boosts. Holy fuck, that's terrible. Something call. Armory call, right? Armory call. What's another strong equipped card? There are 245 equipped cards. There has to be something that is worth the effort of playing. Light laser for the fool. Yeah. Ring of Magnetism also for the fool. Yeah. None of the Project Seas monsters. Exit the Despair with the actual head on it. Each monster in your graveyard. It's too restrictive. United We Stand is one of the better equipped cards I found. I think I'm allergic to this level of shit. Thank goodness Firework isn't here, because I feel like he actually could beat me this time. Even if he's not here, I have to insult him. This is pain. Minotaur. I'll go second. What would this deck be good at going? Not. Not. The surrender button. Like, this is its ultimate destination. I got the moon. And I got Valhalla, which means I can probably summon the moon. Problem is, I'm probably not gonna do much besides that. Yeah, summon the Empress. And hope to fucking god that I don't get the moon's tails effect, or I'm gonna have to give them the Empress. Oh hell yeah, I got the power of the card. It's one. Come forth, Arcana Force. 18, and it's a mandatory effect that makes you do the coin tosses. Which one did this land on? Tails effect. Oh, great! You can immediately see how badly this deck backfires. Well, to be fair, the double tails effect probably helps more than one heads and one tails. Because if this one has heads, I was not going to do anything with it. Yes. 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 Nope, I'm dead. There go all my equip cards. I didn't need those or anything. Yeah, I should probably put in some traps that can help me reverse the situation I'm in. Counterpoint, I needed all the space just to make sure the deck didn't flop. Because the strategy requires a second coin. Well, I could have replaced the equip spells with it, but then I would have no way to get them to at least be beat sticks. Which is, you know, low tier of monster, but not as low as most of the Arcana Force monsters. You can add that one spell cast from your hand or face by some discard. Right, this is one of the invoked supports. This is probably one of the shortest Archetype reviews. Because there was so little to say about the Archetype. There's no... If you're this Archetype, if you're completely like running the risk versus the reward, you notice that the risk is like a fucking skyscraper, while the reward is like a spoonful of salt. Which is all you're gonna have if you play this piece of shit. Oh. Yo! Light Barrier. That's Hope Magician. Fluidus, Dogmatica Fluidus, the Knight. Fluidus, the Dragon Knight. I'll set a monster. And ends my turn. I should have just kept that in my hand, honestly, but I don't think it changes much. If he summons a monster with 1800 attack or more, I've lost. You can banish him level 1, you can banish. You can detach one special 1 level 7 or lower pendulum monster from your hand and defend when against effects. Discard phase. So I think this one's supposed to like represent a magician for a pendulum magician utopia. Looking at its design and effect, it perfectly does not achieve that. But at least it's not as perfectly in not achieving that as what I have. Yeah. Did why? Why? You just took 600 from this and added it to this. Wow. The only card that would have saved me was either the World or the Fool. And neither one would have lasted for very long. Yeah, I'm gonna just surrender because the time limit's at 6,000 and he's just not doing anything. Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. There's no one in chat to duel. Nor do I have a high motivation to duel anyone with this trash. I'll join next week as I might actually review an archetype worth talking about rather than Arcana Force or Guardians or whatever other shit I can find. Make sure to join the gaming Discord to do the suggestions and follow me on Twitch to catch this live and actually talk to me and ask me questions during the stream. You can still ask them in the comments, I still answer. Hope you all enjoyed. See you all next time. Bye bye.